Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this installment of Epic Insight. This is Chris Colangelo, Manager of Marketing and Communications here at Epic Retirement Plan Services, and I will be your host for today's call. As technology evolves around us each day, providers of financial services need to continually audit and modernize their suite of tools to remain competitive. With that as a backdrop, we're joined for the next half an hour by Chris Gaden, Director of National Accounts, and Brian Gualillo, Digital Marketing Strategist Lead at Principal Global Investors, who will share how retirement and wealth management companies can leverage technology to promote growth. Your line will be muted throughout the call, but if you have any questions you would like us to address at the conclusion of the session, please enter them in the webinar control panel. With that, we will turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Great first name. I appreciate that. And I really want to pass along the thanks and gratitude that Principal has for everyone's time and attention this afternoon. I know our schedules are busy and there's not an efficient way to get more hours in the day, but I think we have a great little insight and package of ideas that we'd like to share with you about how technology can kind of help the modern advisor. And when we think about how technology changes certain things that we did or had a practice of doing in the past 10 years, our business practices and covering individual clients and retirement plans is no different as an advisor. And so Brian Gualillo, our digital marketing strategist, is going to take you through some of the insights and best practices that we've observed to try to help your practices run a little better and leverage technology. So with that in mind, Brian, feel free to dive into it. Thanks for giving us the high-level overview of this and what we can do with our practices each day.
Thanks, Chris. So basically, I spend the majority of my day and my time throughout the week researching new technology and figuring out ways to help elevate our web pages in search results. I also spend a lot of time consulting directly with financial advisors on how they can better use technology to capture, engage, and nurture leads. So today, the plan is just to kind of go through some of the basics in regards to digital marketing and figure out what opportunities you guys might have to improve and to kind of optimize your own technology stack. So the plan for today is just to really talk at first about your technology that you're using in order to capture, engage, and nurture leads. And then the second half of the presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about how you can improve the way that your digital presence is occurring online and that's ultimately attracting new clients. So before we get into kind of the nuts and bolts of digital marketing and technology best practices, I wanted just to talk at a high level about how the landscape is really changing. And really what we're seeing is a dramatic shift, not only in age, but in assets across the industry. So research has shown that about $30 trillion worth of assets are going to pass from baby boomers to Gen X over the next 30 years. I mean, that's a huge amount of money. So the purchasing power is starting to shift from the older generation to the younger generations, and that's only going to continue to grow over the next 30 years. Millennials, or those that basically have grown up with technology, make up to date the largest demographic on record, coming in at about 83.1 million people. If you add in Gen X and the other demographics under the age of 52, it comes in at about 132.7 million people that are starting to expect companies to have more of a digital presence and to help reduce friction for them. It's no longer optional to have a website. Now, if you don't have a digital front door, you might as well not have a presence online at all. Right? And so what we're also seeing is because of this younger generation, they're used to going out and Googling things, right? Looking for things through searching, looking through social media. And so referral-driven business isn't nearly as strong as it was. I'm not saying that referral business is going away or that it's completely, very small. But what I'm saying is that non-referral business is actually starting to outpace referrals when it comes to total assets under management and growth. So that might be non-referral business might be an individual coming through on your website, an individual that might find you through social media or a paid ad. There's a lot of different channels now for your customers to engage with you and to interact with you, especially when it comes to those potential clients. So how is your digital presence capturing these individuals to make sure that you get them from your marketing pipeline into your sales pipeline? So again, before I talk about some of the technology, I want to make sure that I reiterate a few things. And the first thing is that we're not asking you to be a digital marketing expert. We know that you are specialists in your field and that you've got your niches and your clients. But it's not about understanding everything. It's just about having a general guideline or sense of some of the opportunities that you can take advantage of in order to help grow your practice. It's just like you don't need to be a mechanic in order to drive a car, but it is important to know some of the fundamentals so that you know what's the gas and what's the brake, right? It's the same thing with digital marketing. Is some of these concepts we're not asking you to be the expert in. We're simply shining a light in that direction and saying, hey, this might be something that could help you with your business, can help you attract more clients, and it's something to look into, but you may need to engage other resources, right? Those other resources could be your IT department, your marketing department, a digital marketing consultant, someone that's specializing in SEO. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do, all right? And then with all things, I have to caveat this with, before you go out and start to adopt some of this technology, make sure that you vet it through your compliance and your IT areas, because every advisor is different and it's important to work within your own boundaries and constraints. So if something isn't approved, maybe challenge it or ask why, but if ultimately there's a solid reason behind it, there are other things that you can do to also help to attract and engage clients. So what are the two pieces of technology that a typical advisor will really interact with, right? Well, we have two pieces primarily. The first is marketing technology, and that's really focused on before the sale occurs. So this is, again, attracting, nurturing, engaging clients when they're still trying to figure out who you are, is this an individual that I should work with, when they're kind of poking around, right? So marketing technology is a funnel that occurs prior to the sale. Then you have what's called practice management technology. And this is where advisors in our research and in our experience are much more mature, right? So they have a lot more technology and tools that center around the day-to-day business of their operations, whether that's accounting software, tax software, rebalancing software, industry trend monitoring analysis. There's a lot of those types of tools that help just an advisor simply complete their day-to-day. But there's definitely an opportunity for advisors to start focusing more on adopting of marketing technology in order to grow their pipeline and get more clients over time. So in order to introduce kind of some of these pieces of technology, I like to use kind of a metaphor, and that's a technology stack. Essentially, a technology stack is a collection of tools that an individual or a business will use in order to achieve a result. Whether that result might be saving time, reducing amount of steps in a process for a client, or attracting a new business. All of those things can make up their own technology stacks. And so it's important to choose the right technology and invest in the right things so that your stack is strategic and you're not simply choosing things off the shelf because, yeah, you think that they might help, but ultimately there's no overarching strategy. Right? So you want to have an overarching strategy that really dictates how your technology is layered on top of one another. And we'll get into that here in a second. But first, I wanted to show you this graphic from Chief Martech. Chief Martech is an industry-leading marketing technology research company. And since 2011, they've been putting out what's called the marketing technology landscape. And it's essentially just an inventory of all the marketing technology that's available to advisors or to anyone that's really looking to attract new clients. And what you can see is that obviously it's grown exponentially. So since 2011, we've added, over 3,200, 3,300 tools here. It's quite a large leap. And if we look at today, this is as of 2018, so as of just last year, there were over 7,000 tools on that marketing technology landscape list. It says the Martech 5,000 because it's catchier, but ultimately it's about 7,000 tools. So the point of this slide is to be overwhelming, but it's also to show you that, there is some opportunity here, but your job isn't to wade through all of this. It's not to figure out of all of these countless tools, which one is the best for you. That's really where Principal steps in, where we've because we understand the advisor, we've already done this research. We've already boiled the ocean to figure out of this entire list of tools, what are the exact tools that would really help an advisor, again, attract, engage, nurture, and grow their clients, all right? So we wanted to give you a place to start. We wanted to, again, kind of boil the ocean a bit and distill this down so that we can give you guys a game plan of some things that you might want to focus on. So out of all the slides that I'm going to show you today, this ultimately may be the most important, right? So this is the strategy that we're recommending. And that strategy is, again, layering technology on top of one another to achieve a common result. What we see time and time again is advisors will choose one piece of technology and then expect that to have all the results, to do everything for them. Well, ultimately, it's really the ecosystem. It's the collection of tools that you use in conjunction with one another to achieve a result. No one tool is powerful enough to do it all or to achieve miraculous results. It's usually a combined effort. And so this is a place to start. This is a place that we recommend advisors starting when they're considering building their technology stack. So at a base level, you would have what's called a customer relationship management system. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. Some of you may even have this tool already. This is the great tool that really helps inventory who are your clients, what are their names, what are their account balances, when was the last time you met with them, what are their plan dates, what are their plan provisions, all of those nitty-gritty details that are just too hard to manage in Excel, right? This is also an engine, though, that can integrate with other tools in your technology stack to not only capture information, but also to feed information to your website, for instance, to make it more personalized. So your website can consume information from your CRM as well as pass information to your CRM, again, working in conjunction to make sure records are constantly being updated. But as we all know, if you simply build a website, you can't expect people just to simply find you, right? There's a lot of noise that's starting to occur on the internet, and with all the amount of advisors that are out there doing similar things, how do you stand apart? And that's really where search engine optimization comes in, or SEO. And I'll explain more about these later, but these are areas where you can specialize and maybe hire out some of this expertise so that someone can review your website and say, hey, maybe if you use these keywords instead of these keywords, you're going to get more traffic from people that are just naturally typing in search results into Google. And they can help you kind of create a strategy around what keywords are more relevant versus less relevant, and to make sure that you're getting a steady flow of people onto your website, right? So now you've got some website traffic through some of the best practices of SEO. But simply having website traffic isn't enough. As we all know, there's something called bounce rate. So someone can come onto your website, not find what they're looking for, or not be engaged with some sort of action step, and they just leave, right? So they leave and they may never return to your website. That's where we highly recommend that advisors, if possible, start capturing emails from those that are visiting their website. And you do that by exchanging value for that email. And I'll explain some strategies later on how to capture email. But it's very, very important to make sure that you can continue the conversation with that prospective client after they've left your website. Because let's face it, clients are bombarded, prospective clients especially, are bombarded with a lot of different information and a lot of different marketing. So it's important to make sure that you stand out by continuing that conversation in their inbox. And you can do that using what's called marketing automation. So again, email capture is now talking to your marketing automation tool saying, hey, I've gotten this new list of potential clients. Let's make sure that we start to nurture these clients using targeted marketing messages over time. And that can get automatically sent out using what's called a marketing automation tool. And again, I'll explain some more of the basics on that later. Once you have a steady conversation going in that potential client's inbox, now you can start thinking about how can I offer value to them? And in exchange for that value, maybe at some point, once you're down the road of the marketing automation journey, we can get them to take action with me. And that action, as we're recommending it, is to set up an appointment, right? Because once you get an appointment with a potential client, everything else can follow. The sales process can start, you can explain your products and services, but as we all know, getting someone in the door, getting someone to say, yes, I would like to meet with you to understand more about X, Y, or Z is extremely difficult. And that's why appointment scheduling software or an online appointment scheduler really helps to reduce that friction and make it really easy for clients and potential clients to take action. So here's kind of what we would consider an example technology stack. This is by no means, as you saw in the marketing technology landscape, all the options that you have available to you. There are many, many, many more. But at a foundational level, here are some of the pieces of technology that we recommend advisors look into. Again, Principal's done the heavy lifting of trying to figure out what applies most to the financial advisor and how can you better utilize this technology. So I would urge you to look at this list and identify where you might have some gaps in technology. Where are you stronger? Where are you weaker? And where might your investment dollars be better spent? I'm guessing that a lot of you might be really strong on the left side of this graphic when it comes to internal communication, social media, and some of your financial software and compliance, but maybe get a little bit weaker as you move towards the right for video conferencing, appointment scheduling, SEO, and SEM. So it's important to really holistically look at your technology stack like this and maybe even build one for yourself. Drop in the technology tools that you're currently using and figure out, man, maybe we're missing an entire section here that would really help us grow our business and attract more clients. So this is something that can definitely help provide a little bit of an audit or an inventory for you as you're going through this exercise. So I wanted to highlight some of these specific technology tools and talk about them a little bit more in depth. The first is the customer relationship management system. And again, if you don't have any other piece of technology, this is the place to start because it's the brain, it's the hub of who your clients are and what they're doing. If you don't have that, then it's very hard for you to personalize or to capture information through any of the other pieces of software. So we definitely recommend starting here. The next is appointment scheduling, and I've already talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth to explain the amount of time and effort that this can really save you over the course of the year. So I'm sure that we've all experienced the back and forth that happens when you're trying to set up an appointment with someone that doesn't share a calendar with you, right? So you're trying to say, okay, well, does next Thursday work? No, Thursday doesn't work. What about Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday works. How about 1? I can't meet at 1. Wait, is this Eastern time? Is this Central time? I mean, it can get confusing. And what ends up happening is this entire sales process is delayed, right? And not only that, your potential client could be being entertained or being courted, if you will, by other competitors. And so it's very important that you make it extremely easy for clients to set up appointments with you. And you can do that by including links to your appointment scheduling application in your email signature, so that anytime you're emailing a potential client or an existing client, they have the option to set up time with you without the back and forth automatically from your email. Again, it automatically it syncs to your Outlook or your Gmail or whatever Outlook or email calendar that you're using, and it'll help make sure that only the time that you're available during normal business hours is available for someone to potentially schedule. So now a potential client could schedule an appointment with you at 2 a.m. in the morning, at 11. I mean, it's on their time without, again, all of that back and forth. So again, it'll save you a lot of time and hours as you're going through this process. Email capture and marketing automation. This is one of the most powerful ways to, again, continue that conversation after someone has left your website. But it's also important to make sure, like I said, that you're exchanging value, because people don't just give out their emails, right? It's important that you exchange something for that email. So what can you give someone for their email that might make it worth it? Well, you can have what they call gated content, or content that lives behind the scenes that's only available if someone gives you a specific piece of information, in this case, their email. So a client gives you their email, and now you can make available either a video series, a white paper, a seminar, something that is offering value to continue their learning experience, to, again, not be a commercial, but offer value over time. And once they've gotten that gated content, you can now start to enter their information into a marketing automation tool to continue to give them more relevant content based on what they initially engaged with, to continue to show your value and your expertise. And again, to continue that conversation. So what is marketing automation, and what does a journey look like, a marketing automation journey? Well, marketing automation is really sending the right message to the right person at the right time. And it's impossible to really do this using man hours, using brute force. It's just not possible unless you hire someone full-time to work on this, to automatically, or to send messages out anytime you get a new email capture. So what marketing automation does is you create a journey, where a journey is essentially a series of emails that really flow together with one another, that's entire purpose is to make sure that you get someone to engage with you further and to take action. So on day one, you might send a hello email, just a hey, thanks for signing up for our email. Here's some additional information based on what you engaged with. We hope to communicate more in the future, right? And then day three, maybe some more detailed information on what you initially sent in day one. That could possibly be an additional follow-up or an industry commentary, something that helps to, again, show your value and show your expertise. Day five, you can explain a little bit more about who you are and how you're different and how you specialize with your target audience. Day eight, again, some more value add material. And then only at day 11, or maybe after a week or so, do you really switch to converting, to trying to figure out, okay, now that someone has gone through this journey, let's get them to take action. Let's offer them the opportunity to schedule an appointment with us. Because simply relying on your website isn't enough. And if you've only been relying on your website and saying, well, I'm not getting any leads from my website, it's possible that you haven't implemented something like this, that is a thoughtful journey that helps guide someone along that nurturing process when they're still kind of evaluating and making decisions, so that you are putting yourself first and foremost in their minds of someone that they would like to do business with. The last piece of technology that I want to talk about briefly is video conferencing. So especially with younger generations, video conferencing is becoming quite the norm. I'm sure you've all seen FaceTime, you've seen Facebook Live. People are consuming video, not only when it comes to video conferencing, but just video in general, more than any other type of content. And we all know that you get a lot more from seeing something than you do from hearing something. And if you can see and hear, now that's a winning standard, right? And so video conferencing, especially when the meeting would have been via phone, is extremely important because it helps your client see your face, and that helps to build trust. There's a lot of nonverbal body language that occurs. And so a client, if they can see you via video conferencing, is more likely to trust you, to engage with you, and to feel a deeper relationship with you over time, because they know not only what set and setting you're involved in, whether it's a professional backdrop behind you or not, or whether you're paying attention or to what they're saying, whether you're taking notes, or it seems like maybe you're distracted on your phone, right? So video conferencing helps elevate a conversation, and it also really helps to, again, build trust. So does that mean that your client has to video conference with you? Definitely not. All I'm saying is that as much as possible, turn on your video, and then they can choose to do what they want. But offering that video as an option will definitely be popular, especially among those younger clients. And again, helping to really set you apart from your competition. So we've thrown some technology at you, we've shown you a technology stack, but ultimately, how much should you be spending on technology? Well, you can take it from your fellow financial advisors. So a recent study done by BlackRock and T3, it's a software company, they figured out that about 50% of financial advisors spend between 1% and 5% of their top line revenue on technology. The real question is, though, are they spending it on marketing technology, or at least some of it, right? You don't have to spend all of it, but at least are they spending some? And what proportion to the practice management technology, right? So making sure that you're spending the money on the right resources and on the right things, specifically a technology stack that integrates with one another and works towards a common goal, as opposed to just random software doing individual things, is going to create a lot more value for you over time. So now I wanted to switch to kind of a different gear and talk a little bit more about online visibility and how to increase your digital presence online, right? And so what we're seeing is that about 70% of the younger investors will Google their financial advisor, but beyond that, what they're going to do is they're going to look at their personal Facebook, Twitter, they might even look at your LinkedIn, and they're going to look at other information that's showing up in search results. So it's really important to have what we call a really solid digital front door, to make sure that if you go through the stress test of being Googled, to make sure that you have pathways for clients to engage with you, that you're easy to find, and that most importantly, that your website and your various properties online are mobile friendly. Because we all know that mobile phones are dominating the industry. They're dominating all of our experiences, and people definitely use their phones to look up information. And so it's important that your website loads quickly on a mobile device and that it's optimized so it resizes itself for a mobile device. You can go onto Google, and there's actually a mobile device friendliness test, and you can simply type in your website and it'll tell you how mobile friendly or not your website is. So we encourage you at Principal to really Google yourself on a regular basis. And when we say Google yourself, we don't mean just your name, but we also mean your business name, right? So your individual name as well as your business name. And also type in some other things that you think people might be searching for you based on, like Brian, financial advisor, or Brian Gualillo, financial advisor in Atlanta, right? Some of those specific keywords, and look at what we call the neighborhood. So what is showing up around your search results related to that query? So when you type in your company name, does another company come up that has a similar company name that's beating you in rankings? If so, maybe you should think about optimizing your website more for your brand name, or putting out a paid ad to make sure that you show up as that top result, or try to get more websites to link to your website, because links count as votes. And anytime someone links to your website, you're more likely to get credibility from Google. So it's very important to think about how your search results are displaying. It's also important to look at the properties that you don't own. So besides your company website or your social media, look at those other third-party applications like Yellow Pages or White Pages or mydata.com, whatever it might be, that seems to offer third-party information on you. What we've seen time and time again is information that might be considered sensitive is now displayed to the world. So that might be an estimate of your net income, a political affiliation that you might have, and goodness forbid, a arrest record, right? We've seen all of those things come up in search results, and if that's coming up in conjunction with your website and your social media, then that may be detracting from the amount of clients that might want to engage with you based on your digital presence. So don't fight the things that are showing up in Google, enhance them. That's what we recommend. So there's a service that really helps you do this. And just like Google has products like Gmail and Google Sheets and Google Docs, they also have what's called Google My Business. It's literally just called that. If you type that into Google, you can get to their landing page. And it's a free service that Google offers to help you enrich what's called your local business result. And if you're not familiar with what a local business result is, I'm sure that you've all interacted with one. So if you've ever looked for a restaurant in maybe a new city that you're visiting, you might see, before you ever get to that restaurant's website, you might see a little rich media call out. When I say rich media, I mean a little right navigation pane that offers photos, reviews, links to your website, links to social media, directions, business hours, all of those types of things. And what we recommend is, if you haven't already, it's called going out and claiming your business. So you say, I do in fact own this business, this is mine, and you can verify it using a business email, or they can send you something in the mail. And then that entitles you now to curate that local business result, which might mean adding photos. We highly recommend adding as many professional photos to your local business results as possible, whether that be photos of your team, photos of marketing materials, photos of the inside of your office. There's a lot of things that you can include to help really make sure that you stand out as a reputable result. And it also gives people a little bit of a first kind of gut check on, is this someone that I want to interact with even before I get to your website, right? You might have a local business result already, even if you haven't claimed the business, and that's what happens when Google automatically creates one for you. So it might be missing a lot of things. Your photos might be pretty stark. You might not have any reviews, right? So it's very important to go out and check the state of what we call your local business result. So now what? All right, we've thrown a lot at you, and there's definitely a lot of opportunity here we see for financial advisors. But again, it's not being an expert digital marketer. We're not asking you to all of a sudden go out and learn all of these best practices. But directionally, it's important to kind of figure out, yeah, we should be looking into an appointment scheduling software, or marketing automation and capturing emails on our website. These are just some what we call like high-level milestones that we see for financial advisors to really improve their prospecting and their existing relationships with clients. So we urge you to find those gaps in your technology stack and plug them with useful technology that really works with one another. And start a conversation. Ask your peers, what technology are they using in certain spaces? And you can definitely learn from each other. And technology really doesn't have to be scary. This is definitely an opportunity to partner with others to help grow your business. So that's what I had for today. I wanted to open it up in case anyone had any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, we will now open up the floor for a few minutes of questions. If anyone out there has something you would like to run by us, please enter it into the questions panel now. I would throw this one at you. So when you gave some sort of sample stacks, would you or principal or any have put together or any recommendations for sort of a tech stack based on budget size or resource availability? How many, this one you can kind of run yourself. This one you're going to need a team. Do you have any recommendations in that regard?
That's a great question. So while we haven't put together specific budget level technology stacks, what we do talk about is the layering effect. So it's like baking a recipe, right? You can start with one, and then as your budget allows, start with let's say CRM, and then as your budget allows, add on to that technology stack. So it's definitely, you don't have to do it all at once because that could be very much an undertaking. It's about kind of building as you go at a level that's comfortable for both you, not only from a growth perspective, but also from a budget perspective. The good news is a lot of what we've suggested today, and a lot of the example tools that we have represented here are free. So Google My Business is free. Online appointment scheduling, most of that software is also free. So it's not necessarily about budget. A lot of times it's just about the effort around investing in these time to get these technologies up and off the ground.
Okay, great. Here's one about having branches or multiple offices and claiming your business on Google. How would that affect the ability to do that?
Yeah, so you'd want to claim each of your local offices. So each one would have a local business result. That's a great question. We see a lot of people with multiple offices. There's no one generic local business result that'll account for everything. So you'll want to do one for Dallas, you'll want to do one for Rochester, one for Chicago, and so on. And then in addition to that, you'll also want to have maybe targeted landing pages on your website for each of those locations. You don't necessarily have to have those live in the navigation, but you can link to them for marketing materials as well as local business results in order to direct people to the very specific page for maybe their area or their region.
And I guess there's one here, then I'll add some color to it for myself. So if you're going to head down a path, are there any that are sort of all-inclusive that can do kind of everything? And if in your experience, if you see somebody starting down a path, is it smarter to start with one that you think is going to be all-inclusive, or maybe pick and piece? I guess it would be based on budget, but how would you kind of recommend somebody look at it from that standpoint?
When you say all-inclusive, do you mean in like a fully bundled marketing software solution?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be.
Yep. So
yeah, that would be the thought.
There are a few of those out there, but what I would urge every financial advisor to do is to focus more on specialized niche tools, because it was almost more of an older mindset where it was, I purchase one tool that's a suite of various tools and this will do everything for me. Now it's picking very specific, specialized tools that are just really good at one function and layering those together using what are called APIs, or a better way to say it is integrations. So a lot of these tools will automatically integrate with one another, speaking from a data perspective to each other, sharing information automatically without even really needing IT, as long as they're compatible. So like HubSpot is a good example of that. While HubSpot doesn't have SEO tools, it doesn't have all the email capture abilities, what you can do is you can integrate HubSpot with all of those other tools by simply logging in. And so now you've essentially built your own suite. And so that's what we would urge financial advisors to do, is to kind of build your own, especially based on the strategies that we've outlined today. There's not a whole lot of software out there that's just going to do this all. That's a magic bullet. A lot of the things we suggested today, like I said, can be layered on top of one another.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think that's all we have for questions. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Chris. And thanks to Principal Global Investors. And thank you all for joining us for this Epic Insight webinar. We definitely appreciate your partnership and look forward to seeing you at our next session. Have a great day.